What's up, YouTube? We got Garrison's deck laid out here, so we're going to do a deck tech on it. First, one of our local players, Jimmy, was kind enough to laser etch this for us. He said he's going to make nameplates for a lot of the locals or regulars here, so it's pretty cool. All right, Garrison, why don't you talk about your deck, and I'll just kind of sit here and listen.
I guess we're playing Orzhov Command.
Command the Dreadhorde.
Or Wandering Command. So premise of the deck is basically to control the board long enough to be able to play a Wanderer, have it live, and then command the Dreadhorde and just take value cards, or rather every creature or planeswalker out of their graveyard and out of yours, back onto the battlefield.
So the way this works is Command the Dreadhorde deals damage to you equal to the total converted mana cost of whatever cards you choose. The Wanderer says prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to you and other permanents you control. So you reanimate everything and you get dealt 0 damage.
Yep. So pretty good. There's it's basically just a black-white control deck, I guess, if you will. There is a lot of control, a bunch of wrath effects. And I guess kind of go over the removal that's in the deck to begin with. So Liliana's Triumph, Edict effects are really good. The fact that it doesn't target your opponent is pretty good. Simple fact that it gets around
Shalai, Gruul Spellbreaker,
the new Planeswalker Teo that gives you hexproof.
Yep.
So it's pretty good in that aspect, and it doesn't target the creature, so it gets around things like Carnage Tyrant. Then there's Moment of Craving, just giving you the couple extra points of life gain that you might need to live a little bit longer. Dealing with some problematic cards, especially in like red or mono white. And then we're playing Golden Demise.
Main reason I use this is Adanto Vanguard.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Like I said, dealing with the stuff that's early that's going to kill you, living long enough there. Golden Demise, playing the Golden Demise over Cry of the Carnarium because of the simple fact that Cry exiles those creatures. And with Command the Dreadhorde, it's only from the graveyards. So yeah, you really want them to come back. So you lose a little bit with that, but you hopefully get enough value out of the command later in the game. Then we have Wrath effects in Kaya's Wrath and Cleansing Nova.
So we've got two Liliana's Triumph, 2 Moment of Craving, 2 Golden Demise, 2 Cleansing Nova, and then 3 Kaya's Wrath.
Yep. And then kind of had like a little flex spot. Oath of Kaya. I feel Oath of Kaya is pretty good. This deck doesn't do as much, but the fact that it is 3 points of damage instead of 2, killing some problematic things like a Wild Growth Walker when it first hits the battlefield if they haven't explored with it, and then you actually gaining the life. And if you happen to have a Planeswalker in the battlefield, the second line can be relevant text. So, and then I guess going into the creatures for the deck, we're playing for Tithe Taker just because we're getting value out of it when it dies, since you are killing creatures most of the time, or trying to kill creatures.
Can also slow them down and make them have less than optimal plays by having to play on their own turn.
Yep. And then Seraph of the Scales, kind of the same thing. Just gives you a body, and being in the air is pretty good. It could also block with Death Touch.
And you don't care if you wrath your own Seraph.
Yep. Getting two 1/1s that fly is still pretty good. Basilica Bellhaunt, it gives you a little bit of life gain, but then a big body. The 3/4 at 4 seems really good right now.
Also, when you bring it back, they have to discard again.
Yep.
So,
and then
this was my genius deck here.
Then adding 4 Charm Strays. I know a lot of people, we're not so hyped on this card, but in this deck it's actually kind of interesting because say you play all 4 Charm Strays, you wrath a couple of times, they're all in your graveyard. You don't necessarily think about it, except for the fact when you reanimate all 4 Charm Strays, you have a trigger on this card.
You have all 4 of them triggering, making them all 4/4s with lifelink.
Yep, which turns out 4/4s with lifelink is pretty good in this format right now. And then we have 1 God Eternal Bantu and 2 God Eternal Ketras. The Bantu tries to help you out from flooding. So the fact that if you're at 7 or 8 lands, you can just sack down to the 5 or 6 if you wanted to draw a couple extra cards, try to get you to the pieces that you might need to find. And then the 2 God Eternal Ketras, the fact that when you play one, you play any of these other creatures that might be lower casting cost, you make a 4/4. If you play the second Oketra, you can sacrifice the first one, still make a 4/4, tuck it back in, so it does semi-combo with itself, and repeatedly every 3 turns playing another creature, getting you an additional zombie, plus your 3/6 double striker.
Another thing I'll point out with the gods, because it's not quite that evident, they do hit the graveyard. or Exile Zone.
Yep.
So there is a trigger that happens there. You can choose to leave it in the graveyard. If, let's say you had, 11 mana, you're late game, you play the Bantu, you could sacrifice all of your creatures, draw a whole bunch of cards, and then command the Dreadhorde and bring it right back. It doesn't have to go in your library if you don't want it to.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice for that simple fact. Unfortunately, Oketra is not whenever a creature enters the battlefield that it makes a zombie. It is when you cast it. So you do, unfortunately, needs a couple creatures that are lower curve. For
Oketra
that.
doesn't trigger from all this stuff being reanimated, but
So
the Bantu would allow you to sacrifice things and draw cards and then reanimate them.
But then the nice thing about this too is that late game when you get to Liliana Dreadhorde General, the simple fact that you do have a bunch of zombies you can kill them with that. You don't much care about sacrificing 2 creatures on your side since you are wrathing a lot, just controlling their board. Eventually Liliana wins out with the card draw, and I have not yet been able to ultimate her, but it is pretty good. So if you could do it, so.
Then I guess we'll go over the
combos.
lands real quick.
Yep.
4 Godless Shrine, 4 Isolated Chapel. There's 2 Forsaken Sanctuary just so you have the extra dual lands. And then we've got 6 each Swamps and Islands. These are beta.
Swamps and Plains.
It's not Swamps and Plains. Sorry, I'm a blue player.
Yeah.
Swamps and Plains. And they're beta for the people that are about to ask, what edition are those lands?
Yep.
And then 1 Blast Zone and 1 Arch of Razga.
Now, and it was kind of interesting because I toyed a little bit playing an additional basic over the colorless lands. You do need some sort of card draw. Arch of Razga gives that to you. It is harder to get to send with this deck, but if you do have that card draw. And the Blast Zone actually does a little bit more than I thought it would to begin with. Just the simple fact that there's random 2 and 3 drops out there that you need to deal with. Somebody plays a late game as Kanta. If they don't have one flipped already, you can just take it up once and then the next turn crack it. So
The other thing to point out with Blast Zone, I don't know, it's a good view there. So it enters with 1 counter on it, and obviously it destroys everything with that CMC. It's really good against mono blue and mono red, and decent against mono white too. Anything that's flooding the board with 1-drops, you play this, you got 3 other lands, and you wipe their board.
the thing to remember though, the difference between Blast Zone and what a lot of people were thinking about is other cards that are it's current mana cost or less. It's not. It is equal to.
It is equal.
So
it kills a lot of the stuff in the mono blue deck. Kills a decent amount of stuff in mono white. And there's 8 or 12 1-drops in the red deck.
Yep. So it does do a fair amount of damage, and it can help you to stabilize earlier in the game against some small decks if you don't have the time to get up to a Wrath effect. Even though we are playing for the small decks, I guess is essentially 7 Wrath effects.
Yep. And then it is tough if you know you're playing against aggro. Having these in your opener does feel bad if you're going to try to curve into Kaya's Wrath or even the Bellhaunt, because it basically guarantees you can't cast it until turn 5.
Yep.
Unless you happen to draw one before then.
Yep. So I guess that's the main deck. So kind of interesting, a different take than what I had originally planned on the deck, and it's still evolving. So there's still, I think, a couple of tweaks that need to happen to it. But then the sideboard I just kind of threw together, thinking about the things that I needed to play or I was going to play against. So first off, it's 3 Duress. I think in black, it's pretty much a mainstay for any black sideboard card.
Yep.
And then there's 1 Gideon's Triumph. Just the fact that they sacrifice a creature. Now it does target, but the fact that it's either attacked or blocked this turn. So if you throw your Charm Stray into play, they think they get a free block out of it. The Triumph will allow that to resolve, and maybe you got him. So then with 3 Gideon's Sacrifice, I feel like this might actually be in the main board. It might be main board worthy. The fact with the Wanderer in play, this card becomes ridiculous. They have to target the Wanderer with any sort of burn spell.
They don't have to.
So you're right, they don't have to. I'm just not taking any damage. But at this point,
to move it from the Wanderer that they're trying to kill onto any other permanent, and it's prevented.
Yep.
That's how that works.
Yep. So, and then 2 Lyra, just kind of give you a little bit more late game if, say, it's just a mainstay, I think.
Yeah, Lyra's just good.
It's just good.
She closes games out. She gains life.
3 Mortify, things like Reclamation and Search for Escanta are in the format. So, and they need to be dealt with. If you can't deal with them, which the main board cannot do outside of the Blast Zone, then you're going to sideboard into this. And then there's 2 cast down, just a little bit of extra removal in case you need it. I feel that was originally in the main board, pulled to the side. It may possibly get cut. And then Kaya. Now, it's very uninteractive, much like the Wanderer, where it exiles a creature with power 4 greater. The fact that Kaya exiles cards really hurts, but it also gives them something that they have to deal with, because Kaya can just continue to exile the non-creature cards.
Yeah, eventually she'll kill them.
Yeah, and it is up to 2, so you don't have to target the creatures that are there or anything for that matter.
And you just target non-creatures unless you need the life.
So that's it. I went 1 and 2. So for FNM, so anybody who's watching would know, I got a pity pack. So 1 pack tonight. So we're actually gonna open this. Hopefully, I guess.
Nicol Bolas, right here.
Yeah, something stupid, but probably not.
Slow roll it.
So we have a Contentious Plan, a Samus Sprint, a Snare Spinner, a Crotch Wrangler, a Thunder Drake, Sarkhan's Catharsis, Vraska's Finisher, Saheeli's Silverwing, a Bloom Hulk. We got that
Kitty
nice
number
little
5.
Nice little Charm Stray. Unfortunately, we can't play it here. Uncommons, a D-Spark, which I think is actually a pretty good card.
That's a good card.
I just don't know if it actually fit in here because it does exile. We have Bond of Revival, a Challenger Troll.
Here we go, YouTube.
And Vivian, Champion of the Wilds.
Not bad.
So, and then Voja, Friend to Elves token, and a Mountain. So, not horrible, but not sure I'll be playing anything. But to go back to playing Ooze.
Yeah, we did have someone ask if you're working on a new Ooze build, so why don't you talk about that for a second?
Yeah, we're working on it. Just a couple new inclusions. You get Vivian, which is actually really good in that deck, and
Rolex.
Yeah, you do get Rolex, the Apex Predator, right? So it's okay. I haven't really liked it too terribly much. I thought Bioessence Hydra was going to be great. It turns out it's not that great in that deck. You're not really doing broken things like you would with that. And then there's one other Planeswalker, and I'm blanking on the name of which one it is right now. But
describe it.
I don't even remember.
Wow.
So yeah, unfortunately,
it left that much of an impact.
Yeah.
Yep.
But so there's I do. It's the new Nissa.
Oh.
So the fact that you're able to double up on the green mana with the Reclamation's really good with the Vivian in play, because casting Krasis for $1 million feels great when you're empty-handed. Approximately $1 million, maybe a little bit less. Yeah. But even at that fact, like with the Nissa into play, and playing an Ooze with Vivian, playing an Ooze at the end of their turn, untapping, playing an Ooze, and then Reclamation on a stack and making a whole bunch of tokens, also seems good as long as you don't get Wrathed on their next turn. So you do have lethal. You can combine lethal in approximately a turn and a half. So,
all right. So there you have it, YouTube. That's the deck he played tonight. I knew people were going to ask for it, so might as well just make a video out of it. Thanks for watching.